points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg. I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here for the third time this weekend. And what a way to cap a Sunday that people in Winnipeg, sports fans in Winnipeg, and those who are here and maybe afar cheering for teams in Winnipeg will not soon forget. It started at 12 noon with the Manitoba Moose winning in overtime. It continued on at IG Field with the Bombers winning the West Division final and heading to their third consecutive Grey Cup. And just when it looked like it was all for naught for the Winnipeg Jets in Seattle, they pull the rabbit out of the hat, not the rabbit punch that Carson Soucy delivered to the back of Pierre-Luc Dubois' head, but the rabbit nonetheless out of the hat, win it in overtime. And it's a 3-for-3 day for the Winnipeg
trifecta
pro sports teams. Just an unbelievable sporting event day, and those, of course, who cheer for the Vikings also are celebrating an unexpected victory given the circumstances of that win as well.
Are the Vikings 8-1?
They are
Wow.
8-1. It's just absolutely the Vikings are playing tremendous football, sort of. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop on the Vikings, of course, as I'm sure every Vikings fan is. But just there's people who don't like sports, and all the power to them. People who just say they're not for them. They just don't
hold on. I don't understand. What did you just say? Some people don't like sports. Is that what you just said?
Lots of people who don't like sports, and that's perfectly fine, and all the power to them, and it's good to be a well-rounded individual. I consider myself a well-rounded individual. I like sports. I like other things, but
you like acid jazz, for example?
Yes, I'm huge into acid jazz. Everybody knows that you can catch me, playing my acid jazz and, all summer long on my front porch. But the dramatics that we've seen in today's game, in sports in general, not specific to tonight, although of course the Jets' victory was undoubtedly dramatic as can be, but just the drama that sports delivers on a game in, game out basis is second to none, and I just don't understand how people aren't interested in it. It's the real life drama that people tune in and they see it in their scripted TV shows or their reality shows or whatever floats their boat, and by all means, all the power to you, as I said. But for real life drama, it's hard to beat professional sports, and you really did see that today here in Winnipeg, and of course with the Winnipeg teams. Just an incredible sporting day all around, gentlemen. Good to see you both again.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to give huge shout out to the Moose and the Bombers going for their third Grey Cup. Dave M will get into that in the Manouk Moose Minute, because the Moose didn't have a very good start at Canada Life Center this afternoon. But yeah, the Bombers, I think we all knew they were a heavy favorite and we thought they were going to win, but give BC credit. They made it interesting there at the end, and hopefully Zach Collaros is going to be able to go.
Fine.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad, and especially when he was taken out of the game. It looked like, maybe he was going to be more serious. So we'll wait and see, but hopefully he's ready to go. But what a finish at Climate Pledge Arena. I was sitting here watching I was in Dave's living room here, but, we're watching the game and I'm thinking, if with 6 or 7 minutes left, if the Jets are able to pull out a point out of this game, it's going to be miraculous. And you mentioned Carson Soucy. Soucy's a guy I have a lot of respect for, right? He's not the most talented guy. Wasn't a high draft pick, but that's just stupid. Kevin Sawyer mentioned that, or I forget if it was Kevin Sawyer or Dan Robertson, about possible suspension. If the NHL Department of Player Safety, was doing things the way they should be doing things, he probably gets 5 games for that minimum, maybe 10 games. What the hell was that? That was dangerous. That was a sucker punch to the back of the head. And you guys know I like physicality and old school fighting in hockey, but that was just stupid. And he cost his team the game.
I mean, you're right. You don't often say that, there's a direct correlation between an event and an outcome. But in this instance, I mean, I do not believe that had Susie not taken that penalty, that the Jets were going to find a way to muster that tying goal at that point. It seemed like they sort of had run out of a little bit of gas at that point. The power play that they had before that, of course, they weren't able to capitalize on Dave. But then Susie, who goes into business for himself. That's what that's called. And it's reminiscent of the playoff series against the Edmonton Oilers. That's the last time that sort of jumps to my mind. A player went into business for himself, and I can't remember.
Josh Archibald.
Josh Archibald, thank you. On Logan Stanley, tries to take out Logan Stanley at the knees. If you remember that game 3, I believe it was. It was game 3 between the Jets and the Oilers back in the COVID times. And he tries to take out Stanley at his knees. He gets a 5-minute major. The Jets end up scoring 3 goals, if I'm not mistaken, to tie that game and then eventually win it.
Morrissey was the one who tied it up, and then Ehlers got the winner.
Right, exactly right. So that's the last time that, with regard to a game that the Jets were involved in, that a player went into business for himself, and it cost the Edmonton Oilers that game, and it certainly cost the Seattle Kraken tonight's game, because I think they thought that they had it in hand, and Susie decided to be, it was a good net front battle between him and Dubois. That was what that was at first. It was a hard battle. That's two physical players.
Yeah, two big guys, but Dubois wasn't. Yeah. I mean, Dubois was just kind of leaning, back on him, and they were just having like a regular battle. I'm not sure. Like Susie, obviously, wasn't liking, what Dubois was bringing. He probably, thought this guy's like, I've met my match here. Like most guys can't really push Dubois around, but I would be shocked, Drew, if he doesn't get at least a couple games. Absolutely shocked, and I honestly expect it to be somewhere around probably 2 to 3 games.
I would expect, and Dave M, we want to get you in here. Do you think that's a suspendable offense there from Susie, or does it look more like because there's no significant injury to Dubois as far as we know right now? And let's not jump to any conclusions, because we know that when it comes to head injuries and headshots, sometimes things take a time to develop. But look, it seems like it should be a no-brainer. You can't punch a guy in the back of the head full force when the guy's not paying attention to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, I can't imagine there's going to be anything less than at least a game. And I'm with, I think it probably ends up being 3 games. I mean, I don't know Susie's history, so that obviously would play into it. But to me, you could see how pissed off Dubois was. I mean, he was during and as he and I were talking about it, I'm like, he's got to be careful, because he can take a penalty here, and you don't want to give away the advantage you just gained. Because the reality was, I don't even think the faceoff was supposed to be in the Jet zone. So you've now drawn the faceoff back into the Kraken zone. Sorry. Sure. And so it was just a stupid play. It made absolutely no sense. And I jokingly said on Twitter, I'm like, I think you should give Susie's fist an assist on the game-winning goal or game-tying goal, by Blake Wheeler, because it was a dumb play. And look, the funny part is, and unless it happened before the incident that precipitated it wasn't significant. Like I watched the replay and I was like, Dubois bodies him but it's shoulder to the chest. It's not a significant, contact by Pierre-Luc Dubois. So I'm like, okay, well, in my head, I'm like, there's gotta be something more. Maybe he said something, because that in and of itself isn't enough to do it. And I mean, I understand that sometimes these guys aren't the brightest, but presence of mind, it's a freaking 1-goal game. Yeah. And it's not as if you were dominating. So, the Jets are pouring everything they've got at you, and yet you're going to take that penalty with that little amount of time left in the game. It was the match, right, Dave?
That was the match that just ignited the Jets.
For sure.
And, regardless, I saw a few people in the chat, saying that, 10 seconds before that Dubois cross-checked Susie, which I didn't see. Exactly. So, regardless of that happened, I'm with Drew here. Again, I like physicality in hockey. I like big hits. My favorite player of all time is Scott Stevens, for Christ's sakes. I like the physicality. You can't punch a guy in the back of the head. You just can't do that.
So I missed as JD Paul's now list. There was a slash. Okay, well that explains it, because like I said, it explains why Susie did it, because the contact they showed on the replay wasn't significant enough to actually justify what he did. But neither did, no offense, a heavy slash to cost your team a point. Like it's just, again, Seattle is, they're feeling good about themselves. They've hit a bit of a lull. They haven't been great at home. I think they were 3-4-1 at Climate Pledge Arena coming into tonight's game.
Yeah, then they lost 1-0 to Minnesota. So that snapped I think it was a 5-game winning streak, Dave.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. But the point is you're third in the Pacific, right? Nobody expected you to be a playoff team. And again, there's a lot of runway left here but the reality is you're in a good spot. You're looking like you've got this game locked down. The Jets the Jets didn't look like they could hit the net if their lives depended on it. How many shots were wide of the freaking net? As you and I were watching, I'm like, do these guys know that they actually have to hit the target? Because right now they're shooting it everywhere but at the net. It was unbelievable. But it looked like, again, you're in the driver's seat. You're in control. And then you go and you turn a face-off out of the zone into a 6-on-4 in your zone. It's inexplicable. And again, like obviously they ended up getting the puck out, but the point is you gave the Jets, as Drew said, I think that was the match that ignited the Jets. And, obviously the Jets were ignited in that second period. They played very well, but the reality was that this was what, gave them the fire to get back into this game and then ultimately win it in OT.
Craig's not wrong there, Drew. Sorry, just wanted to say that the comment I don't know if you can put that back up there, but yeah, I think there's a strong argument to be made that should have been an illegal hit to the head, right? And then you get a major, and then I think Craig Penner has a good point there that it's almost like the NHL needs to revisit what that is called as opposed to it being a minor. I mean, why? How is that a minor? How is what Blake Wheeler did a double minor? And then what Carson Soucy did is a minor. Like, I know we're going to get into the goals here, Drew, but I thought that it was ridiculous that Burakovsky at the very least didn't get a boarding call on who was it?
Nate Schmidt.
It wasn't Brendan. It was Nate Schmidt. I was about to say Brendan Dillon. Dillon got in Burakovsky's face after to stand up for his D partner. But I can't believe that there was such crappy officiating in this game. I didn't have any problem with, the Manalainen slash or the Wheeler hooking penalty that led to the 5-on-3. Those were penalties. But the fact that Burakovsky got nothing and then Wheeler got the extra 2 minutes, I'm not sure what the extra 2 minutes was for. So just overall, the officiating, again, wasn't the reason why, the Jets won this game or the Kraken lost this game. But just overall, this, I thought, was not the best night for the Zebras.
No, it was not. But then we talked about that, and I'm firmly of the opinion that if officiating in the NHL will improve and it'll be more consistent when ownership wants to spend more money to get a better quality of official. And, and that's, I think, showed itself again in tonight's game. There's no consistency. There's no rhyme or reason often for the calls. I mean, you mentioned the Wheeler, how the Jets, it doesn't cost them. And they did, they get full marks for that penalty kill, which reminds me of something I think Rick Bowness said, I believe it was in the preseason, talking about team physicality, standing up for one another, where he said something along the lines of, we're going to have each other's back. And if we take an extra penalty as a result, so be it. We'll kill that penalty. And you really got to see that.
Along the lines of, if you hit one of us, you hit all of us kind of thing.
That's right. You hit one of us, and if it's a dirty one and we go in,
that's our softball mantra, right, Drew?
Well, the best, I don't know if you guys caught this too. Like Lowry, Dylan and Lowry kind of, came towards Burakovsky. It looked like Burakovsky was going to soil his hockey pants. But then, it looked like then Dylan came kind of left, and then Lowry came back. Like, okay, are you sure you don't want to go? Obviously, Burakovsky wants to. These guys know about Lowry. They know Lowry's tough. Like, Burakovsky was not going to fight Lowry. But the funniest part was then the Jets had got the extra 4-minute penalty, and who comes out to kill the penalty? Adam Lowry, right? It was just a funny sequence. And also the call on Mason Appleton. Obviously, we hope that he's doing okay, but that also was kind of a weak call because his stick got caught in the hole in the glass. So just overall, the
call was for interference, and then by unfortunate happenstance,
right,
he got his stick caught there, which hurt himself. I mean, you're right, and that's just a sort of a fluke play where you get wedged in and sort of get almost like cross-checked by your own stick in that instance. Very weird.
Hoisted by his own petard, Drew.
Well, we used to do what was my column called back on
hoisted by
the petard.
Hoisting the petard, yeah.
Hoisting the petard. Can you Google? Are those articles still on the website?
I would think so.
Yeah, for sure. You can go back and you can see.
You can't erase the internet, Drew. Once it's out there, it's there
once
forever.
It's out there. Drew's got some rants.
Yeah, I have some rants. If you want to go back, way back, you can see what I used to write about what I once wrote about the Carolina Hurricanes, and I got into some trouble as a result for that. That's back over a decade ago.
Well, you were just being a jerk.
You know, that's oftentimes what I am. Let's get into the Betway game recap. And what a recap, what a game it was in Seattle tonight. The Winnipeg Jets, of course, victorious in overtime by that 3-2 margin. The Betway game recap, of course, is brought to you by Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront with a large selection of betting options and sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. The Bombers opened the scoring. It was Zach Collaros hitting Dalton Schoen with a touchdown. Missed extra point, made it 6-0 for the Bombers early in the first quarter. Again, wrong game recap. There was a lot going on today, though. You know,
Shout out to Brady Oliveira. Jeff Hamilton mentioned that yesterday when we asked him kind of who those X factors were going to be, and I think he was you were there, Drew, so you probably know I think he was around 150 total combined yards, right? So Brady Oliveira was unbelievable.
120 on the ground, and I think 37 through the air, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he was, and you knew it was that kind of night, so it had to be that kind of game. Meanwhile, BC couldn't run the ball at all, and the Bombers' defense was outstanding. You look at the stats, and they actually flatter BC because a lot of that came when the game was close to out of hand there late in the fourth quarter, and of course the BC touchdown before their one right with a couple minutes to go was off that muffed punt by Janarian Grant that led to the 2-yard touchdown, but separate issue entirely. There's a lot of talk about on this Sunday night, folks. There's a lot to talk about. You're watching the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. We're talking about the Jets. We're talking about the Bombers. We'll talk about the Vikings maybe. We'll talk about the Moose. Lots to talk about. The Winnipeg Ice won again last night, of course, which we touched on last night's post-game show. Lots to talk about, but let's get into the game recap from the Jets and the Kraken. The Kraken opened the scoring. We talk about it. It's power play. Jordan Eberle, his fourth of the year, assist to Vince Dunn and Andre Burakovsky, who we've mentioned already throughout the post-game show. That comes at the 7:30 mark of the first period. Eberle, his fourth of the year, guys. I was going to say as he comes in a 5-on-3 situation with Manalainen and Wheeler in the box taking penalties within the first 6 minutes and 41 seconds of the first period.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was like a who can hit the mute button, unmute button first there. I was ready to jump in there, Drew, but thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a 5-on-3, and, you know, the Jets are maybe a little bit deep there, but the Kraken are moving the puck nicely there. Vince Dunn, I thought, had a really good game. I mentioned, you know, those were both bad penalties to take. And I personally think that was one of the reasons why Blake Wheeler was so fired up. And you saw that after he came out of the box after his 4-minute roughing penalty, right? He had that good scoring chance. So clearly Wheeler wasn't happy that he put his team down two players. And you've seen that so many times over the years, guys. And, you know, you shouldn't be surprised if you've watched the Jets over the last 11 or 12 years that Wheeler responded with a really, good second and third period. So, I mean, it was just, you know, a nice rebound. The Kraken were moving the puck around. And it's a 5-on-3. I mean, we know when you go down 2 men, I mean, it's the chances the team's going to score go up incredibly as opposed to just a 5-on-4. So, yeah, Jordan Eberle, you know, we talked about it yesterday morning. Like, you know, the Kraken don't have, you know, superstar players like the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Colorado Avalanche, but they've got a lot of good second line players like Burakovsky and Eberle, and, you know, they took advantage. And, you know, that was a bad period for the Jets. The Kraken were the better team, even though they weren't incredible. It was a pretty sleepy first period. The Jets were much better in the second, but yeah, they took advantage of that 5-on-3, and most teams should.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Jets did get a lot better in that second period. The first period was sort of the Jets looked like it took them a little while, Dave, to get their skating legs. You know, makes sense. Late night flying in from Calgary, second half of a back-to-back. So it's sort of understandable that it was a bit of a slow start for the Jets. The possession was heavily in favor of Seattle in that first period. But what you like from a Jets perspective is that despite, you know, not being at your peak performance, despite sort of having the lactic acid still built up in your legs and you haven't been able to sort of clear the cobwebs, it was still only a 1-0 game at that point.
Yeah, and I think Mike McIntyre of the Free Press had tweeted out saying that it was the shortest mandated turnaround time at 22 hours. So, look, you kind of expected it, and we're always, I'm always interested to hear what players say, because sometimes it's a convenient thing and they're ready to go right out of the gate. And other times, if they have a slow start, well, it takes a little bit of time to get that out and then to build back up. So it's a little bit of happenstance based on circumstance for how things go in terms of your response. But you're right. It was a bit of a sleepy first period for the Jets, but they certainly woke up in that second and they certainly were ready to roll. And they got lucky, right? I mean, they hit some the Kraken hit some posts. And so there were a couple of open looks that they missed. I think right at the end of the period, they had an relatively easy, I think was it Eberle who had that chance for a tap in at the end of the first. So there were opportunities where the Kraken could have taken a bit of a lead. But, of course they don't. And because of that, it keeps the Jets in the match. And then as a result, it gives them that opportunity to kind of like wake up in that second. They put on Kenny's shirt, the wake up shirt, and they were ready to go for that second period. And you could tell, because think about it. I mean, like they outshot Seattle 17-6 while killing off the 4-minute Blake Wheeler penalty. Right. So it was a heck of a middle frame for the Jets. One, and it's something that's gotten better for them over the course of the season. And of course, they were able to get back into the game because of it. Drew, what's going on? Sorry, as an aside, I'm finding it very distracting because the chat is so fixated. For people who are listening to the podcast after this, people are so fixated on the fact that Drew is not wearing glasses tonight.
Was that Laura, by the way? Is she LB?
I honestly, I mean, that my wife's initials are very similar to that.
But they're not that, though.
They're not. I mean, that's not her initials, but I mean, I've called her, LB before.
Does Drew have a secret admirer?
Wait, was Lauren? Wait, Drew, is that Lauren Brossois?
It might be Lauren, and might be Lauren Brossois, and
maybe he's in Henderson right now. Yeah, no, he's cleared waivers.
Yeah, that's true. The odds that my wife is tuning into this are probably less than 1%. So I'm guessing it was not my wife. It was just somebody who's
Drew. The truth is, it's not just LB. I mean, the truth is, people are focused on the fact that you're not wearing glasses right now.
Thinks you look hot too, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, people are liking it.
Maybe I'll just try a whole new look. Maybe I'll scrap the glasses, go back to my contacts. Maybe I'll shave the beard and only go with a mustache. It'll be radical. People just won't know what hit them. I'll keep changing my look up on a
Let's get it back to hockey.
Post-game basis.
Enough of Drew's little beauty festivities here.
There you go. Thank you very much. Exactly right. Anyways, the Jets down 1-0 after 20 minutes, but they tie it up again. Another power play goal. That was the story of today's game. Lots of power play goals. 1-1. Mark Scheifele at the 10:52 mark of the second period. Assist to Sam Gagner and an assist to Kyle Connor on these goals. I mean, this was not a well-established power play. It didn't look crisp. It didn't look textbook. But it was effective in that Scheifele gathers up a rebound off the end board, sort of a weird bounce. Gagner shoots wide, it comes back out, and Scheifele makes no mistake but discombobulated power play, I'd say, for the most part in tonight's game for the Winnipeg Jets, despite the fact that they scored twice.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a huge story. And Rick Bowness mentioned that I forget, Dave, you would know better than I would. I'm not sure if he mentioned it this morning in his availability for his post game, but I know that Bowness was saying that, it was really a momentum zapper yesterday. I'm talking about against Calgary when they went 0-for-3 on the power play. Obviously there were other things happening in that game as well, but yeah, you're right, Drew. I mean, look, this is just a fortuitous bounce. Like, let's be honest here. Like, Gagner is coming from the point, gives the puck to Connor. Connor gives it back to Gagner. He moves in, top of the circle, takes the shot, misses the net, and just bounces right to Scheifele. And obviously, Marty Jones doesn't have a lot of, like, you can't fault him there. And it's, Scheifele just does the right thing. It comes right to him and he shoots it in the net, right? So, I mean, that was a real lucky bounce. But again, I mean, in this situation, when the Jets, like the penalty kill obviously has come through for them so many times. And that was obviously the first goal they've given up in a while here. But yeah, I mean, I think there's really not much more to say about that, it was just a really lucky bounce. Scheifele was in the perfect position, but, the Jets did set up there and they had, the control of the puck. And we know that, Gagner has been a nice little revelation there on the power play, whether he's playing on the first power play or the second power play. But yeah, there's no doubt that the power play and their success on it was a huge part of their win tonight.
Yeah, no question.
And Drew, I just want to jump in. I happen to be in the car for the second intermission, so I heard and I turned it on NHL radio on my satellite radio, and now I can admit that I have that, right? And I've had it for like 17 years.
You weren't listening to Lithium?
No, but anyways, the point is that I was listening. They were playing the Seattle broadcast on NHL radio, and they were talking about the N boards, and they were talking about how lively, and that's something, of course, with us not having watched a lot of games played in Seattle, clearly a storyline there, because the broadcast team was talking about how the impact that the boards had on that puck and the way it ended up on the on Mark Scheifele's stick. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I think that was the first goal in 20 that the Kraken had given up on the power play. So their power play had been clicking, and or penalty kill, sorry. And of course, Mark Scheifele gets it, and everything is looking good for the Jets, because they are feeling good about themselves tying up that game.
I love those. Sorry, Drew. I was going to say I love those reverse retro jerseys. I mean,
I don't know.
The Kraken are such a storied franchise that goes back 1 year.
They need the reverse retros.
Well, it's funny. I when I first turned on the broadcast, I was like watching. I was like, oh, I kind of like them. I'm kind of into it. And then the more I watched it, I kind of found it to be a bit obnoxious. And so I asked people on Twitter, and first of all, a lot of people think it looks like toothpaste, which I enjoyed. And a lot of people are not fans. So that was the general consensus I got on.
Is that teal? Is that the color? Is it aquamarine? Like, I don't really know what color that was, but it was
I would think aquamarine based on the whole sea theme that's going on there.
Nautical.
So let's
very nautical in Seattle.
Let's ask the chat what they thought. But I got they kind of wore on me. I liked them, and then I was like, meh, I'm not a big fan. But
Dave, you're the anchor of the show for sure.
I appreciate that.
That's very kind of you there, Mr. Ginsburg. We say good evening to everybody. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the Illegal Curve post-game show, the Betway game recap, talking about the Jets' 3-2 victory over the Seattle Kraken. The Jets had tied it up at 1 in the second period. We were just talking about the Scheifele goal. And then, seconds later, 45 seconds later, is when that scrum happens where Burakovsky, levels Nate Schmidt in the numbers with a bad hit, doesn't answer the bell. And then it's basically, more than your typical post-whistle shenanigans that leads to the Kraken having that 4-minute power play. And the Jets did just a really good job, really solid job killing that off. We touched on it earlier, but we wanted to mention it again as we go through the game recap, because we're at that stage of the game. And that second period, the Jets, I think they deserve better to be tied 1-1 after 40 minutes, because they were absolutely dominant in that second period. Shots 17-6 over the Kraken. Really, they found their legs. Certainly, they controlled the play. 67% possession in that second period. And the Jets, and I think if it wasn't for some tremendous saves by Martin Jones, and he was great tonight. And
the pad save that he made on Dubois. I believe it was Dubois, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, where he stacked right on the goal line.
Yeah, and it looked like they might review it because it was that close. But he made 3. That was like there was a shot, rebound, and then there was a second rebound. So that shot was, that save, should be on highlight reels. I don't know if it will be, just because the Kraken didn't end up winning the game. But still, look, we talked about it yesterday on the morning show. Like, it's Marty Jones, like, good for him. Like, this is a guy that, like, not many people, everyone, he was a third string goalie for the Kraken, right? Because Chris Drieger, good Manitoba boy, he's injured right now, and so is Grubauer.
Right.
So it's Magnus Hellberg, I think, is the
just got him off
Swedish
waivers
goalie.
from Ottawa.
So he's their backup goalie right now. So good for Marty Jones. I agree with you, Drew. The Jets could have easily had a couple goals in that period.
Talking about goaltending, I think, Dave, we have to mention at least David Riddick played, solidly for the Winnipeg Jets in tonight's game. He made, I think, the majority of the saves you want him to make. I don't think you can blame him for any of that. I don't think any of the goals that they gave up were bad or atrocious. He was what you want to see out of your backup goaltender, playing in that difficult situation, keeping your team in the game, making some important saves. Certainly, the Jets, I thought, did a pretty good job for a large part of the game in making it easy on them. They only gave up 21 shots in the course of the entirety of the game, but I thought that David Riddick was calm and controlled in net for the Jets tonight. Dave, you're Dave.
I understand. I was trying to unmute myself while looking at something else, but look, what has it been? It's been about 2.5 weeks since he played in that Arizona game.
Yeah.
So, maybe not quite 2.5, but it's been close to 2 weeks since he last played, a hockey game. So for David Riddick to come in basically cold and have a pretty solid effort for the Winnipeg Jets, that's exactly, again, we talk about it. That's what you want from your backup netminder. You want your backup netminder to be able to sufficiently come in. And we knew that Connor
Gives the team a
Hellebuck,
chance to win, right?
that's just it. Exactly. And that's what he did. I thought he played,
Yeah.
I thought he was consistent. I thought he, again, Drew, I don't think any of the goals against him were egregious.
Mhm.
So I think it was one of those, believe me, we'll talk about some egregious goals later in the Manitoba Moose minute. But the reality is for him is that, again, it gives him a piece of the win. It gives him an opportunity to feel like he's part of that team. And you could see it, right? When the final whistle, or when the horn sounded that the game was over, obviously Jets had won the OT. You could see when the camera panned to him, the excitement as he joined his teammates. So I just thought he had a pretty solid effort for the Winnipeg Jets in the win. And like, it's exactly what you want from a guy who was, remember, I mean, he's a reclamation project, right? Because he looked like he was on the scrap heap after, looking so otherworldly in Calgary, and then kind of going to Nashville and looking not very good last year. Again, we didn't watch him a lot, but from his numbers,
his numbers were ugly.
His numbers were terrible. And so you're thinking, okay, maybe there's something that they can, reclaim in him. And that was a good effort for David Rittich and a good effort for the Winnipeg Jets. And he kept his team in it. Even though that if the Jordan Eberle high sticking goes in, maybe a different story, of course, because at that point you don't think the Jets come back from down 2. But no, I thought Rittich played a nice game, and I think his it's good because it lets his team know, hey, Connor Hellebuck has been otherworldly already this season, but you can have a guy who's going to come in and especially when the Jets didn't start off the game particularly well, he was able to hold the fort, which is what you need.
That's exactly right. So it's 1-1 after 40 minutes. The Brandon Tanev, former Winnipeg Jets player, looked like he'd gotten the game-winning goal. Would have been the second consecutive night that a former Winnipeg Jets player,
Drew, don't forget his shorthanded breakaway.
Yes, shorthanded breakaway, of course, that where he hit the crossbar, beauty move, beating Riddick, but finding
Backhand,
the crossbar. Yeah, backhand, exactly. Brandon Tanev at 7:02 of the third period, and it looked like after Trevor Lewis did it to the Jets last night, it looked like Tanev was going to be the second consecutive night that a former Jet was going to get the game-winning goal. Assist to Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde on this one. Doesn't look great from both Dylan DeMello's perspective and Blake Wheeler's perspective on this goal, as Tanev
and Sandberg, by the way.
Yeah,
Sandberg's pinch wasn't good.
Yeah. Sandberg at the offensive blue line is where it starts, and you're not in a bad position at that point. Even with DeMello and Wheeler back there, you think that you should be in a position where you're able to prevent this from becoming a goal or a dangerous opportunity. But Tanev really beat both of those guys on the in this, and then with a nice shot, beat Dave Riddick to give the Kraken a 2-1 lead at that point, Ezzy.
Yeah, well, a shot comes around and Dylan Sandberg goes in to, I don't think you're going to call it a pinch, but he goes in there to get the puck along the boards. And I think it was Yanni Gourde that poked the puck past him, if I'm not mistaken. And then you're right. I mean, on this particular goal, I think the problem that you have with what Dylan DeMello does is that he overcommits himself, right? Like like Brandon Tanev is kind of going one way. Dylan DeMello comes over and Tanev just beats him. Like he beat him cleanly to the center of the ice. And you're right. It looked like that goal was going to hold up. But again, I don't fault Riddick on that one. I just think, Sandberg gets beat by Yanni Gourde poking the puck past him along the boards. That creates, some time and space for the Kraken. And then, DeMello comes over, tries to make a play on Tanev and just gets beat. So, to me, that was a nice individual effort by Brandon Tanev.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tanev is, it's sort of amazing what he's become since, he left Winnipeg. I mean, he was a very effective player for the Winnipeg Jets, and he went to Pittsburgh, and he was a very effective player for the Penguins, and he's still a very effective player for the Kraken. I mean, Dave, he's just a guy who knows what he needs to do, and his game is based on speed, and it's based on a forecheck, and you don't want to play against Brandon Tanev. It's got to be very annoying to play against Brandon Tanev, because just when you think you might have some time, he's there to eat up the space very quickly, and he knows exactly
like
how
a killer bee.
Sure, like a killer bee, if you
or
want
just
to
a
use
regular
that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, like a bee, apparently. If you want to use that analogy, that's what we're going to
Or
go
like
with.
Coco Beware.
Yeah, worker. That was one of my favorite wrestlers.
There you go.
With
Whatever
the on his shoulder.
Yeah. Yes. Do you remember the parrot's name?
Oh.
Whoa. No.
Frankie was the parrot's name. So
nice.
there you can go.
You win that round, Drew.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a good one.
I can't remember my kids' names half the time, but
I thought you named your kids Frankie after the parrot.
That's true. I should. You're
What was
Frankie A and
what was
Frankie
Jake the
B.
Snake's name?
Damien.
Yeah.
True. That I mean, that's
It's easy, Ezzy. Come on, that's not a difficult one at all. In any event,
What was his finishing move?
The DDT.
Come on,
Ezra. I'm going to block you from this if you're going to keep.
Yeah, like we're going to mute you right now. That's terrible.
Ezra, come on. That's bad.
I met Jake the Snake 5 years ago. It was great. One of my favorites.
Okay, good to know. We'll get into that story, I think, off air sometime, but not important right now. Look, it looked like Tanev's goal was going to hold up. The Jets, the power play looked, relatively inept because they had plenty of opportunities in that third period. Jordan Eberle takes the hooking call, at the 16:39 mark of the third period, and it takes the Jets a full minute just to gain the zone. It was just, the Seattle was just sort of standing at the blue line, and the Jets just were, not able to penetrate it at all. And if they threw it in deep, it just went back down the ice very quickly. It was just, an ugly looking power play. They finally get some zone time. They're not able to score, but they get some zone time. And there was a number of shifts, after the Tanev goal where the Jets really applied the pressure, and it wasn't coming from necessarily the top line Winnipeg Jets. Manalainen and Fialbi and Adam Lowry had a shift where they were just buzzing all over the Kraken end. So the Jets were pushing and pushing and pushing it. For the life of me, it looked like one of those games where the Jets were just going to fall a bit short, Dave. And then we saw what happened. Of course, Carson Soucy, terrible penalty, punched in the back of the head to Pierre-Luc Dubois at the 1934 mark of the third period. To your point, Dave, it was going to be a face-off. Not in the Kraken zone. There was only 26 seconds left in the game at this point in time. The face-off was going to be outside the zone. Instead, when a call gets made, the face-off, as we know, comes down next to the goaltender. And the Jets are able to somehow, with the goalmouth scramble, Blake Wheeler, his 300th career NHL goal, couldn't come at a better
750th point as a member of the Winnipeg Jets.
There you go, exactly right. That's his fourth of the season, assist to Kyle Connor and Neil Pionk, and you could just the Jets. I don't know if they were full marks. They were deserving of it because they did not quit, and they took advantage of the error in judgment demonstrated by Carson Soucy there.
Absolutely. And the funny part is even when they set up, they didn't, and then the puck got out of the zone, you're thinking to yourself, well, you just, as he said to me, he goes, well, that just cost them 10 seconds. Yeah. And you're thinking to yourself, and it was funny because it was one of those games, and usually it's, Ez and I will, when we're watching either, in a press box or here at my place, we'll have a conversation. You kind of get a sense. Do you think the Jets are good? I said to Ezzy before, I said, I kind of have a feeling the Jets are going to tie this game up. And then when they were kind of blowing it on the power play. We
also say that every time the Jets are losing a game. So
that is true. That is true.
We have like a 50-50 chance.
We have a pretty good opportunity to be right. But it was one of those games where it felt like that. But then, of course, when they Seattle managed to clear the zone, you're like, okay, maybe not. But the Jets, to your point, Drew, which is what you're saying, is that they didn't give up. They kept buzzing. They kept pushing. And they flooded the front of the net. And again, it's not a 6-on-5 situation. It's a 6-on-4, which is massive. And that's why I said, Pierre-Luc Dubois, back of Pierre-Luc Dubois' head deserves an assist for subjecting itself to that sort of that pain to get the opportunity for Winnipeg. But hey, it doesn't really matter because the Jets were feeling really good about their game, right? We talked about this. You had points in 7 straight games before the loss last night in Calgary. And even if you lost today, you're not feeling great about yourself. But at the same time, it's not the world isn't over that you've lost 2, but it's still 2 games that you've lost. And the worst part is for the Jets is that you don't have another game till Thursdays here in Winnipeg against Anaheim. So now you got to sit on that for 2 days. Whereas now instead you've split this weekend series. You're still feeling good overall about yourself. You know that you're going to be able to work on your power play and hitting the net during the next few days. They'll probably have a day off tomorrow and practice Tuesday, Wednesday.
They're off tomorrow.
Okay, fine. Well, that's not a surprise. But the reality is, so you'll be able to work on the things you need to work on, right? And like I said, when I was at the practice on Friday, they were focused. Well, they're going to need to be focused on Tuesday, Wednesday, really to get their power play a little more refined and to, maybe, like I said, work on some drills that make them hit the net. But overall, like I said, they're feeling good about themselves, at least to have earned, as he said, to have at least gotten a point out of this game. Even if you just walked away with a point in a back-to-back and not an easy thing to do, but you at least got yourself into overtime to give yourself that opportunity.
You're absolutely right. And then they get the second point, and it comes at the 54-second mark of overtime. It's Mark Scheifele, his second of the game, his 10th of the year, assist to Josh Morrissey. And, it was a couple weeks ago where Mark Scheifele got beat by Jack Eichel in overtime with a bit of a soft defensive play. And he had a bit of, a soft defensive play yesterday against Elias Lindholm that led to a Calgary goal. Well, this goal is Mark Scheifele making a tremendous defensive play on Andre Burakovsky in the Jets defensive zone, leading to the breakout that inevitably ends up with Morrissey finding Scheifele on the 2-on-1. So full marks to Mark Scheifele here for a great defensive play. And I'll be honest, I was watching this play unfold because the Jets had possession in the Kraken zone. And then the Kraken took it away from the Jets and started to move up the ice. I thought Scheifele should have gotten off the ice. I was thinking to myself watching this, you're on for too long. You've already had your 45-second shift here in overtime. Somebody should be jumping on as the Kraken move the puck up into the Jets offensive zone, or into the Jets defensive zone, as the case may be. And Scheifele stayed with it, forced the turnover, led to the Morrissey goal, and then deposited the winner behind Martin Jones. And what a tremendous play by him. What a tremendous victory for the Winnipeg Jets, Ezzy.
Yeah, is it 2018? Because Scheifele and Wheeler were looking like 2018 Scheifele and Wheeler, the guys that win the Jets the games. And Connor, obviously, but Connor didn't fall off last year. In fact, it went the other way, right? So, for all the criticism that Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele got in the offseason, these guys are stepping up. And yes, Scheifele wasn't good yesterday in Calgary. He was -3. And again, yes, it's a flawed stat, but, he was on the ice for 3 goals against. He wasn't good. Tonight, he was good. First period, maybe not so much, but the second and third periods, you just said it, Drew, Morrissey's the defenseman back. Burakovsky, he's dangling too much there. Scheifele strips the puck. Scheifele and Morrissey go up the ice, and they get the job done. And you're right. It was a situation where, you're looking at the clock and you're saying maybe go off there. But look, Scheifele, gets on his horse, and, he knows that Morrissey's going to get him the puck there. Even though Morrissey has a good shot, that he's going to find him there. So, he capped it off, and he made up for, a poor performance yesterday. So, again, after 14 games, the Jets are in a great position right now, record-wise, and we're not going to start, planning the parade route yet. But this team wouldn't win a game like that last year. No, they just wouldn't, right? After Brandon Tanev scored, you're right, Drew. You're thinking, okay, that's all she wrote. 2-1 loss, and give the Jets credit, because it looked like, even though they had a power play that was 6-on-4, as Dave mentioned, they waited until 3.9 or 4.9, whatever seconds left, to tie that game up. But, they got the all-important extra point there in overtime. And, it was the first time I think we've seen this year Mason Appleton not starting the overtime for the Jets, which is something that I don't think we would have thought we would have said at the beginning of the year. But look, Scheifele, Connor, and Morrissey, to me, are the 3 guys that you want out there. If everybody's healthy, I think Ehlers deserves a crack at it. But Scheifele, Morrissey, and Connor, those guys are second to none in the NHL when it comes to 3-on-3 overtime. So that was a beauty goal.
With the victory, the Jets improved to 9-4-1 on the season, moving back into top spot in the Central Division. Of course, a little too soon, but it's fun to keep an eye on that as the season now hits the 14-game mark for the Winnipeg Jets, and they're next in action. They got a few days off after this. They've had a few days off, then they had the back-to-back, and now they have a few days off before Thursday, where Teppo Numminen and Teemu Selanne get inducted into the Winnipeg Jets Hall of Fame, which will obviously be an exciting night in downtown Winnipeg.
Just quickly, Drew, I was going to say, Josh Morrissey, his quest for 82 assists maintains. 14 assists in 14 games for Josh Morrissey.
The new Roman Yossi, Dave.
But it's crazy. His career high, 3 years ago, was 26, and now he's already at 14 in 14 games. Again, do we think he's going to hit?
See him playing with such confidence, the way he's sort of driving the play and the way he's carrying the puck up the ice. Josh Morrissey's been a good player. He was a good player for the Jets last year. He had that bounce back year after struggling 2 seasons ago. Right. He even looks like he's reached a new level so far this season. His presence on the ice is something that is, I think, more noticeable and more pronounced than it has been in years past.
Yeah, no, and again, that's what you needed from Josh Morrissey. I mean, we talk about it all the time. The number one driver, the number one most important player of this team is always going to be Connor Hellebuck. Mark Scheifele's probably number 2, but you need defense. And
number
Josh
3,
Morrissey's
Axel Jonsson-Fjällby.
His flow, specifically his flow. But no, I mean, I just think that, yeah, his elevation has been significant. And, it's good for Josh Morrissey. I mean, just remember, guys, it's not that long ago. And I'm not saying this is a vast majority of people, but remember how many people were talking coincidentally and ironically that they're playing Seattle, that people were saying they should leave Josh Morrissey exposed.
No,
I'm not, look, Drew, people know, Drew, I'm telling you right now, nobody pays attention to this stuff more than I do. I see it all the time.
I know.
People,
those aren't serious people that need to.
I'm just
saying that Morrissey should be exposed.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, Drew, it wasn't, look, Drew, I wouldn't bring it up if it was, let's put it this way. I wouldn't say some people are saying if it was one person. I saw it enough to suggest that I was like, I thought it was ludicrous. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I don't want to go off on a tangent. I just thought it was coincidental that he
listen
is
to
performing.
80s TV Kid. Ignore the Twitter comments.
We do generally. We try.
Yeah.
I actually
80s TV Kid is more of a Mastodon guy, anyways.
I have to say that I generally don't mind Twitter because I find that the interactions I have with most people, mostly because it's Manuk Moose specific, is generally fairly nice. So I
you're back and forth with Musk, by the way.
Yes, that's true.
Dave and Elon are very tight.
We're like this. Yeah, anyways, and the other thing I wanted to point out is whoever would have expected, sorry, Drew, I know we're going long, but whoever would have expected Kyle Connor to be at 2 goals and 10 assists on the season. But here we are. And, Kyle Connor's decided he's not going to go for the goal scoring record this year. He's going to go for the assist record. So
whatever it is, it's working for the Winnipeg Jets. 3-2 come from behind victory tonight in Seattle. They're obviously going to make that long flight home, and it'll feel a lot better as they come home to Winnipeg, take tomorrow off, practice Tuesday, Wednesday, next in action on Thursday against the Anaheim Ducks, and then Saturday, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, etc., come to town. Always exciting when Sid the Kid, who's no longer a kid, will be in town. 9-4-1 Winnipeg Jets record they are at this point in the season. Let's head to break. When we come back, the unique code word of the day, the Tough Duck hardest hitting
comment. Some people already figured it out.
Well, those people are very smart and diligent in their effort. Frosty has got a goal in life, and it's to always figure out the unique code word before we say it on air. But everybody stick with us. We'll talk more about the Manitoba Moose. We'll have a Manuk Moose Minute. Might even mention the Bombers some more. What a day in Winnipeg for the hometown teams, whether they were playing here or they were playing in Seattle. Dave Manuk, Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. We're live. It's Sunday night. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No
Yep.
way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
Come on, there's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40. You're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Sunday evening, we're back on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. The Jets win 3-2. The Bombers win. The Moose win. What a hell of a day for Winnipeg-based sports teams. A day people will remember. A Sunday people will remember, I think, for a pretty long time. To hear about what happened with the Manitoba Moose, we now go to the one, the only, the...
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manouk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
That's your cue, Dave.
That would be me. That's the time that's my time to shine, I guess.
Yeah, that's your cue.
The Moose were in action. It was an early start. Again, we haven't seen very many 12 o'clock starts by the Manitoba Moose here at home, but that's what they did today in their 6th and final game of this homestand against the Calgary Wranglers. They lost on Friday night, as we've discussed during, I think, the last 18 shows in the time between Friday and tonight. But the Moose were back in action. Not really many lineup changes. Greg Morales came in for Wyatt Bongiovanni, and that was the extent of it. And that was all. There were some tweaks to the lines, but essentially the only personnel was in that regard. That was the only change. But it didn't seem to help the Moose that they got into penalty trouble. They gave up 2 power play goals on Friday, and it looked like that pattern was going to continue today because they took a 5-on-3 penalty early in the first period. And of course, the Wranglers made them pay, opening up the scoring 1-0. And you're starting to go, okay, well, I think I've seen this one before. And it really is amazing sometimes. Like, I love watching AHL hockey because, you know, I was jokingly calling it the beautiful game because there's so many instances throughout the course of the game where guys are just banging into each other, knocking each other down, and it's just all over the place. Brad Lambert, 2022 first rounder, he had a couple of good chances to score for the Moose today. He's just coming back from illness, so this was just his second game in a few weeks. He had one chance. It was going to be quite the finish goal, but as my friend Phil Paul Martin told me, there was just not enough finish of Brad Lambert from Heinola and Nikkinen. He just couldn't get it to go, but eventually the Moose would give up a second goal to be in a 2-0 deficit, and starting after 20 minutes. And you're thinking to yourself, they start to push back a little bit. What are they going to be able to do? Well, Cole Meyer, the assistant captain or alternate captain, he managed to chip in a goal early in the second period. So you're thinking, okay, the Moose are in it. It's 2-1. You know, they're playing a little bit better. They're pushing back. They're playing on their toes, as Rick Bowness likes to say. But 10 seconds after Cole Meyer made it 2-1, Oskari Salminen gave up a goal he's not going to be too happy about, because it was from the neutral zone. And it was unbelievable. Like, you kind of watched it and I was like, did that just happen? That goal really just go in? So you're watching to see how the Moose going to react, because it's their second 2-goal deficit of the game. And what they end up doing, they pushed back hard. They actually played a pretty good rest of the period. They didn't fold. Henry Nikkanen, and I've been talking about Henry Nikkanen, the 2019 fourth rounder, for a few years now, but he, to me, is a guy you have to watch. We did an interview with him after the game. I never realized how big he was, but he's a young kid, and he's kind of Gustafsson, like, in the sense that he's defensively responsible. He's constantly playing on the penalty kill. He's done really good work there. He's got a little offense. Had a really nice goal with Evan Polai, who came out just as Polai came out of the penalty box. Created a little bit of a dirty politics, tripped up the Wranglers forward or defenseman, sorry. So gave Nikkanen some opportunity, ripped it top far side to make it a 3-2 game. And then Chaz Lucius, the 2021 first rounder, he was in the right place at the right time. He tied up the game after the second period. So you're going in, you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, how's it gonna end? Well, it didn't end in the third period, which I was kind of hoping, because I was like, well, okay, I don't want this game to go too long. I've got to watch the Bomber game, got the Jets game. But of course, this game needed a little OT. And in overtime, Ville Heinola, who probably played his best game of the year, he got an opportunity to have more ice time, because Declan Chisholm was held out of the game after the first period for precautionary reasons. So Salmon came out after he gave up that goal from neutral ice, and Arvid Holm came on in relief. And then Ville Heinola played a really good game overall, especially from the second period on. And he finished it by making a nice pass to Leon Gavanke, the 2017 fifth rounder. And the Moose end up winning 4-3. And they followed a pattern. They followed a very unusual pattern. They lost every first game of these 3 series here at home against Iowa, Texas, and Calgary, and then won every second game. So the Moose are, even though they had some losses on this homestand, they're feeling good about themselves, and they are 7-3-1-0, which puts them first in the Central. So the Manitoba Moose started off the afternoon for folks in Winnipeg with a big victory over the Calgary Wranglers, and now they'll be at home. They're off tomorrow, have a couple days of practice, and then they hit the road for, I think, 5, starting in Texas for 2.
There you go. That, like, no one else could possibly ever do as the Manitoba Moose Minute. Dave brings it like no one else possibly.
That was a good one. Dave's had a lot of good ones, but that was a very good one. Very, very concise, energetic. Like it.
I like it a lot as well. You got an A+ there, Mr. Manuk, after a very busy, very long weekend for all of us. Of course, we have the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. If you're saying, Drew, how do I enter the merchandise contest? Maybe you're new here. If you are, welcome. Couple ways you can do it. You go into the show description.
Welcome to the Terror Dome.
If you're watching on that's funny, Ezzy. If you're watching on YouTube, you might have to X out of the chat. You go into the show description, you hit the drop down arrow, you'll see the link. Follow that link where it says IC contest. Click that link, you'll see all the different ways you can enter the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. If you can't find it on our YouTube page for some reason, go to illegalcurve.com. Well, you're already on illegalcurve.com anyways, because you know that's where the latest Winnipeg Jets news and audio always is, along with the Moose and the ice and anything else relevant that Dave M wants to put up there. You go to illegalcurve.com, you click on basically any article, and you'll find the link there. Again, you click that link, you find all the different ways you can enter you can enter the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. The unique code word for the contest for tonight. Again, congratulations to Frosty Winnipeg for guessing it ahead of time. Emerald.
I thought for sure Dave was going to go with Sleepless.
Emerald City. Sleepless would have been okay too, though, as it's a good point. Emerald City, all one word, all caps. Emerald City is tonight's unique code for the IC contest. Enter that in on the contest page. You get bonus entries, giving you more opportunities to win some of the great merchandise that we give away here each and every post-game show after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. Speaking of winners, Dave, who is the latest winner of the IC merchandise contest?
Well, Drew, the latest winner, I mean, you would know because you could put their name up, is Michael Smith. I think it's Michael Smith, Plungerhead. So he is the winner of.
Is that actually Plungerhead?
Is that Plungerhead?
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, congratulations to Plungerhead.
Although now I'm a little bit, now actually I just realized I inadvertently just gave away Plungerhead's
need to,
pseudonym, unfortunately. But
hey,
when you enter a contest here at Illegal Curve, we do not tell you we will protect your anonymity. In
By
fact,
the way, if
we
people
offer the exact opposite.
If people don't know who Plungerhead is, he's a staple at Bombers games. Like,
he's also in the chat. He's in the Illegal Curve.
No, but I'm
chat
just
room
saying,
all the
like,
time
he's
as well.
I assume he's a season ticket holder, but he's often at Bombers games, and
maybe are you sure
has a plunger on his head?
Are you sure it's the same plunger head though, Ezzy? It's possible there's two different plunger heads.
Pretty sure it's the. Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't.
Can plunger head let us know if he is the plunger head?
Yeah.
Can we verify him in the chat for $8 a month?
Anyways, the point is that you want some Jets merch from here at Illegal Curve on the post game show. So I will be in touch, and I know that some of the other winners are waiting for their stuff. I will be getting it to you this week. Sorry that I was a little busy last week. So there's if you don't have any concern, because your merch is safely and securely, as Ezzy has seen it, ready to be delivered. So it'll be this week, either maybe tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. I'll get it to you. Don't worry. But I also will destroy your anonymity by taking pictures of you and putting it all over the Illegal Curve social media.
It's the risk you have to take if you want to win the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. Is that they could wear like a luchador mask though. I'm pretty sure they are. There's no rule
that's
against
true.
that.
I don't need your face. I just need to know that you're a human.
Yeah, exactly.
No, actually, you know what? I do need your face, because then we could just be giving Ezzy the jersey and saying, Ezzy, you're the winner. Ezzy, you're Michael Smith.
But Ezzy's not a human, so we don't have to worry about that. In any event,
I'm a big dumb animal for sure.
Tough Duck, hardest hitting comment to wrap it up here tonight, Ezzy. Who do you got for that comment?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of good coaching decisions tonight, so it makes sense that we're giving it to In Bones We Trust. The Jets have an identity. Punch us to the back of the head. Pardon me, just the head at your peril. Sucka. I like that. And I love the way our defense is playing and defending. Yeah, Jets are number 1 in the NHL in goals against. Like, who saw that coming? So I love that comment. In Bones We Trust. Obviously, that's not your real name. So send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com. Give me your mailing address and phone number, because Pure Later needs a phone number as well. Or slide into my DMs at ICSEG. But send me an email. That's easier. Ezra@illegalcurve.com. And Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you directly.
There you go. Congratulations to In Bones We Trust for winning tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Congratulations to all of our winners, of course, here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. We'll do it again next week. Thursday night, we'll be back with the Illegal Curve post-game show following the Winnipeg Jets and the Anaheim Ducks. That game is at 7 o'clock. Post-game show right around 9:45 or so, give or take a couple minutes back here on our YouTube channel. Couple things before we let you go for tonight and let you get on with whatever you have planned at 10 minutes.
Kenny and Rennie, what are you talking about?
On Sunday night. Kenny and Rennie. Yeah, you can go check out Kenny and Rennie. That's a good point. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button. I'm sure you've already done it, but do it again just to make sure. If in case you haven't, maybe you forgot, smash the like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast. Be sure to check out the website, illegalcurve.com. Tell your friends, tell your family. The best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. And again, on Saturday mornings is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. Also, of course, the podcast edition of the show and the instant replay of the show immediately available after we sign off tonight here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. We always appreciate everybody's comments, especially on the podcast. If you haven't already done so, maybe go to the actual podcast, your Apple podcast page or your Google podcast page, wherever you get your podcast. Leave us some feedback there. Always likes to hear what you have to say and what you have to think about this fine program that we put on for you good folks here each and every Saturday morning and after each and every Jets game. Want to say a big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show. Frosty Winnipeg knows where it's at. And the website, a possibility, our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway. They are the official title sponsor here of the post-game show. Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, Grid Park, and The Keg. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. If you know of a business, or if you have a business that you think should be a sponsor here of this show, let us know. Send one of us an email. Send us all an email. Slide into our DMs. Doesn't matter how you get a hold of us. Let us know. We'll be glad to get them, put them in touch with some of our great advertising packages that we have available here on this fine program. Talk about a busy weekend. Saturday morning, we did the IC Hockey Show. Saturday night, we did the post-game show. Sunday night, we did the post-game show. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a busy weekend. But gentlemen, as much as I love both of you, I'm going to enjoy spending a couple days away from you and spending a little more time with my family. We'll be back Thursday night, 9:45.
Your family doesn't miss you, Drew.
It's true. They maybe for like 5 minutes they miss me, and then it's just like, okay, go away again. In any event, 9:45 p.m. on Thursday night, illegalcurve.com. That's updated all the time. Be sure to check it out. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Thursday night, we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.